Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Children Entertainment Panel. My name is Bettina Bush, and I'm pretty sure I know why I was chosen to moderate this panel. I have had a lifetime career in children's entertainment, and I'm super excited to talk to the exceptional creatives that we have on today. My background is I started when I was 7 years old in voiceover and music, voicing iconic characters like Rainbow Bright, My Little Pony, the Rugrats, the Littles. And today I have a beautiful album that I'm super proud of called Once Upon a Rainbow. That's up for Grammy contention for Best Children's Music Album, and a new book that I wrote that I co-wrote with NFL legend Keyshawn Johnson called Once Upon a You. So I'm very excited to join this group. I'm honored to be here with you all. And let's get to welcoming you to the virtual stage. First, I'd like to start with the editor on Dora and the Search for Soul Dorado, Evan Elgren. Hi, Evan.
Hello.
Great to see you.
Great to see you too.
Um, the composer on Netflix's Horton, Vijay Biraput. Hi, Vijay.
Hi, nice to be here.
Good to see you. The composer on Primos and Hey Arnold, Jim Lang. Hey, Jim.
Hi, Bettina. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you.
Good to see you. The composer on Dr. Seuss's The Sneetches, Greg Nicolette. Hi, Greg.
Hi, thank you. And I just wanted to say I'm a little starstruck right now. I had no idea you were the voice of Rainbow Bright. That was one of my favorite shows as a kid. So yeah, I'll try to contain my nerves.
Oh, well, thank you. It's nice to have such a happy moment for people to share with you
Yeah,
because
yeah,
everybody smiles at Rainbow Bright.
sure.
So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And then we also would like to welcome musician, Emmy-winning music editor, and composer, Lorena Perez Batista. Thank you so much for being here, Lorena.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Good to see you. All right, so everybody, let's start us off with kind of a general question for all of you, and you can just answer as you feel comfortable. Can you each share a bit about your project and your creative role in bringing these children's stories to life? And we'll start with Greg.
I'm a composer for film, TV, and games, and was the composer on the Sneetches. The Sneetches is a expansion of the Dr. Seuss short story into in sort of an hour-long animated feature. And what I really love about it is that it's even though it's got all the quirk and whimsy that you'd expect from a Dr. Seuss project, and even though we're basically aiming at younger audiences, we're still tackling some really complicated themes. It's really an allegory for racism, bigotry, generational trauma. These are really heavy issues, and to have such like a kind entry point for kids to tackle some potentially really unkind issues is, I think, really amazing, and I'm really proud to be a part of it. Yeah, that's it in short.
That's incredible. I think that's super timely, and I'm really excited
Hmm.
to see more about that. How about you, Evan?
I am the picture editor on Dora and the Search for Soul Dorado. Dora is such an icon throughout the previous generations, and I was super excited to dive into that world with director Alberto Belli. She just exudes positivity and the wanting and need to explore, and I feel like that's such a childhood and just, I mean, anybody, that's you should carry that through your life and not be afraid to try new things. And that's one of the things I tried to incorporate in editing this is keep it fun, energetic, and positive, and just keep the energy going to match Dora's energy. So that was one of the challenges.
As a mom, I have to say that Dora resonated with both boys and girls in my house. I have one of each.
That's great.
And I have walked around my house singing about being the map. I don't know how many
Yeah,
times.
I did it. I did it too. I did it too while cutting it. And I had a test audience. I had two girls, two little girls, and they were my test audience while I was cutting at home for this movie.
Isn't it helpful?
Oh my
It
God.
really is.
If anything was funny, it was gone. If they were bored, I trimmed it down. So it was great.
They're so honest. They have no filter. It's fantastic.
Oh, they let me
How
know.
about
They let me.
how about you, Jim?
Yeah, the show that I've been working on is called Primos. It's a Disney show. The creator is Natasha Klein, and the show is really about Natasha's 10th summer when her 12 cousins all came to live in her bedroom for the entire summer. Um, it's uh, it's really uh, unlike anything that I've done since Hey Arnold, which has been a long time, in the sense that it's just really rich with different characters, family, crazy stuff going on, and her internal playlist is just stupendous. It's everything from flamenco death metal to norteño music to Beck. I, it's just kind of mind-boggling. So it's been a real delight to score the show. Fantastic show.
I love the phrase internal playlist because we all have one. Nobody really talks about it, but we all have one.
Yeah, and also, her her whole idea was that it was going to be her summer where she would finally find her final form, and her final form is informed so much by all those different characters. So they really kind of work in tandem together, the music and all the characters.
That sounds fantastic. Lorena, let's hop over to you.
Yeah, so it's interesting because I'm here to talk about Dora and the Sneetches. So
Perfect.
I collaborated with Greg, and I'm just meeting Evan today, but we worked on Dora and the Search for Sol Dorado. And again, my collaboration was very small. I work with composers, sometimes as a music editor, but also as a percussionist. So my background is in Latin percussion. I played drums and percussion, so I was able to, in Dora's world, to play a lot of Latin percussion, like collaborate with Kenny Woods on the movie, and also with Bobby Villarreal on the Dora reboot for Nickelodeon. So it's been a wonderful collaboration, just being part of their music team, and add a little bit of percussion to these projects, and hopefully complement it, elevate it, also with Greg. Wonderful music. I just sprinkled a little bit of percussion on top of his music, and it made it very special. And also the themes of both projects are wonderful.
Thank you. I can't wait to hear more about that.
Yeah, it was more than a
VJ.
little. You had a lot of an influence in that score.
Oh, that's amazing. VJ, how about you?
Well, I'm working on like several shows. I'm here to talk mostly about Horton.
Uh-huh.
But the other things I'm doing are Super Kitties for Disney, Mini Bowtoons for Disney, Kindergarten the Musical. Um, I think the interesting thing is about between all those projects, especially Horton, they're all like musically so different. They have their own identity, and especially for Horton, which like Greg is part of this whole expansion of the Dr. Seuss universe. The Horton show is like the main thing. The main theme is about helping others, and I thought it was like a kind of a really nice way, also in the music to make that come to life, and especially the instrumentation. I guess we'll dive into that further. It's just slightly different than other things.
Yeah, I love that. I can't wait to dive more into that. I'm going to pop back to Lorena because I want to talk more about those moments of discovery and collaboration that you were talking about. Is there anything that stood out as especially meaningful or inspiring to you?
I mean, the whole process is very special. Like, you might get themes, original themes from the composers, and you get to learn about where they want to go, what they're trying to do, and then they give you the space to experiment with different ideas, and it's usually coming from the with the rhythmic background, the percussion background, and we just test ideas. We go back and forth. Sometimes they let me write additional music, and then it's a bigger collaboration. But it's just about testing different sounds, trying to find rhythms that complement the storytelling, what's happening at that point in the scene, and just having fun with it, and again, the music is so wonderful. I have fun, they give me the permission to experiment and to try new ideas, and then they take those ideas and they elevate it, right? They keep adding more, and we go back and forth, and I don't know. It's a nice collaboration. I enjoy it a lot.
It sounds like Greg enjoyed it too.
Yeah, I was wondering whether to jump in because
Jump in.
you know, I as composers we're always looking for ways to create a unique world for the projects that we're scoring, and that's sometimes the hardest part about our job is how do we create a palette of sounds that really speaks to just our project. And I remember when I first like on Sneetches, for example, one of the sounds that I just fell in love with was using brushes on congas. And brushes are they look like brushes, but they're a way of hitting a drum, usually used on snare drums. But when Lorena tried it on the opening track of that piece, I fell in love with it immediately, and that was for me like, oh, this is going to be part of the sound now. So that's what I love the most about collaborating with people like Lorena, is that just that they know their instruments so well, and then they come up with ideas that I would just not have asked for otherwise. So being open to what other talented people bring to the project is so important, I think, in what we do as composers.
Agreed. I have
So
such a deep
thank you again,
appreciation
Lorena,
for
for that. That helped.
what you guys do is so amazing. I personally remember very clearly when I was a child, um, doing voiceovers and reading a script, and all it was words on a page, and you're in the studio and you're just speaking the words and trying to bring them to life with just your voice. And then going from that point to months later when I would see it on the screen and I would hear the music underneath it. And it was wild. It was like all of a sudden the magic happened. And it's it's hard to understand the creative process when you're a part of it as a child and seeing how it all comes together. And you guys really do bring the magic. After the actors have done what the actors do and the writers have done what the writers do, it really is amazing. So thank you for that and
Yeah,
this
thank you, Lorena, for
collaborations.
all your amazing work. Because I cut Door without any music because I knew Kenny and team would come in and do his thing and be better than anything I could attempt. So, but when I'd get your stems of percussive stuff or like a death whistle or crazy sounds like that, like it just made my day and made my job so much easier and made my cuts look better. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
It's like it's a
Wow,
whole nother character.
that's insane. Pretty cool. I didn't know how was your process with the movie. So
Well, let's talk about it, Evan. When you're editing for children's content that involves carefully pacing the action and the emotion, how do you find that rhythm so that you can keep the kids engaged without overwhelming them?
Um, it's funny because I don't really approach a project as a children's project or like a thriller or horror movie. The script's there. I cut it the way I think the story should be told according to the script and what's best going to fit the emotions of the scene. Because children are very smart. Nothing gets by them. So I don't think you need to water down an emotion or like you don't have to cheat things. If anything, adults miss more things than the kids do. So you have to water anything down. I think it's more for adults because kids will pick up on everything. And so approaching this, I cut it as an adventure movie, like an Indiana Jones style, Laura Croft adventure
Yeah.
with Dora. And there was a couple moments where we tested it and it was a little too scary at times. Like there was a couple cave moments and I made it a little too suspenseful, I think, and I think that turned kids off a little bit or they got a little too scared. So there was a couple of scenes we had to draw back on just so it was, fit the demographic. But other than that, like I think kids are savvy and I approach every film, according to the script. I don't really have the kids in mind while cutting.
I love that you come from a place of kids being, intelligent beings and understand everything and seeing everything because I think that's super important and they know it and they feel it when the adults
Yeah.
who are behind the scenes come from that perspective.
Yeah, I want to
But
respect the audience and
yeah,
that's my goal.
I love that. Okay, before we continue to talk about your recent projects, can each of you share a piece of media that you encountered as a child that stuck with you and maybe inspire some of your work that you're doing today? And let's start with
Uh,
Jim.
well, I don't know. Does a record qualify as media? Because back when I was a kid,
Yeah.
there was, back in the dark ages, dinosaurs roamed the earth. The media landscape was a lot different. The thing that just blew the top of my head off was my music teacher when I was in fifth grade played Rhapsody in Blue for us in music class. And I had just never heard anything like that ever. And I I was telling this story the other day. I went home. As it turned out, we had a copy of the classic, Gershwin record, which was Rhapsody in Blue on one side, American in Paris on the other. And I took that, and I had a Hopalong Cassidy record player that I kept in my room, and I took that record upstairs and put it on the record player and just like, did that for hours on it. So that was
Oh,
it for me.
that's fantastic. I love that. VJ?
Yeah, it's funny, Jim, that you say that. When I was a kid, I grew up in Holland. I'm Dutch, but when I grew up there, when I was very young, my parents took me to a show in Amsterdam. It was Porky and Bess, and I didn't obviously. I was too young to understand the whole story and what was really going on. But the music, Gershwin, of course, that stuck with me. So I fell in love with Gershwin immediately by mixing the jazz and the classical kind of
Yeah.
music, and then later I think like if you just talk about animation, I think I'm definitely inspired by the Looney Tunes and the Jetsons. And especially the music. It's so amazing. I didn't as a kid. I would listen to the music and I couldn't figure out how they would have composed that. Even I had like no conception of composition yet. But I was like, how do they do that? And I wanna figure this out. So here we are. Still haven't figured it out, by the way.
And yeah, it's fantastic though. The generations inspire generations. It's kind of amazing when you think
Yeah, and
about it.
especially what we do, like animation. I mean, this is like kids will grow up with this, and then like in 20 years they will talk about it like we do, which is really nice to be part of.
Legacy. How about you, Greg?
Yeah, I agree with everything BJ said there, and I what Evan said about respecting your audience also really, really resonates with me because I definitely take the same approach. Maybe, maybe I push it too far sometimes because when I was a kid, the project that or the movie that really stands out to me would be Land Before Time by Don Bluth and James Horner on score for that. And I was I think 4 years old when I saw that in the theater. And when you're that young and you're sort of faced with these ideas of death and loss for the first time, accompanied by music that's just the most beautiful music ever written. I mean, that was a big moment for me. As adults, we're all like, oh, it's the hero's journey, and so the mom has to die, and we're just all cold, and it doesn't register as much anymore, unfortunately. But as a kid, those feelings were incredible, and even though they were technically negative, I guess you could call them negative feelings, I still felt that they were real and complex and I learned a lot and it was incredibly moved even as a kid. And I want to do the same for kids, for the music that I write or for anybody, for any audience that I'm writing for really is find a way to give them that kind of experience. I don't want the projects that I work on to be just a way to fill time for their parents. I hope they bring up interesting questions and introduce people to new kids in this case to feelings that they will unfortunately encounter in real life. I mean, my son's only 3, but he's had to handle loss already. We lost one of our dogs recently. We lost our
I'm
grandmother
sorry.
recently, and so he notices that there's something missing, and so we need ways to talk about these issues and the ways in the projects that we work on. If it's Land Before Time, or I did a project recently called Talon, which was influenced really heavily by Land Before Time, and also has a character on the hero's journey who loses their mom, and Julian saw that. Maybe a little too old for him, but we talked about it, and I also have to say, like, I'm just blown away that he's able to actually remember the music because I was playing the music from the scene when the mom passes away and he asked me, "Is that music for Talon's mom?" I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe he was
Wow.
able to make those connections, and clearly he had some emotional tie at that point to that scene. And hopefully I'm not screwing him up too much, but I think on balance, I think it'll be a good experience for him.
That's always our hope, right? That we're not screwing them up too
Yeah.
much.
Okay.
But I love what you said about it's not just a way for the parents to fill the time for the kids. The fact that creatives have such purpose behind and intention behind what we're doing. Hopefully that even if we are being used as a way to fill the time, it's a purposeful and meaningful way to fill the time. That's the hope, right? How about you, Evan?
Absolutely.
I have so many, but I'll just narrow it down. The two that stick out the most from when I was a kid is Labyrinth and Neverending Story. Those are like staples of my childhood. And it might be that same, what Greg was talking about, the emotional heaviness in those movies that are kind of like frosted over with, jokes or whatever. But I feel like they landed so they're like deep in my mind because of the emotional beats in there, but they're also very fun. So there's definitely different emotions throughout the whole film. But those two movies, their dark moments, light moments, and humor all stuck with me.
Yeah, I can totally see that. I remember those as well. They make
Yeah, like
a
those would be
deep mark.
passion projects. If I could work on things like those, I'd be very happy. Yeah.
And how about you, Lorena?
Um, Again, there's so many movies, but I think, Disney movies in general really influenced me growing up. And I think the songwriting and like movies like Beauty and the Beast and like Toy
Yeah,
Story and like even The Lion King, I don't know, like there's so many special moments where the music together with the lyrics, they just elevate the storytelling and they stay with you forever. They and then you watch the movies many years later and like you feel the same way. You remember the lyrics, you remember those melodies. It's very powerful. And yeah, like Greg said, like it would be a dream to keep doing that, right? To be part of moments like that in the future as for other kids growing up.
yeah, and that is what you guys do. You elevate the storytelling. That's exactly what you're contributing. Um, Greg and VJ, I want to talk to you both about your Dr. Seuss projects you recently worked on. Um, Dr. Seuss includes these worlds that are musically rich and imaginative. And how do you balance that playfulness with that emotional depth in your scores?
I think the playfulness that definitely will comes from rhythm, like what Lorena was saying, and Greg. I also used a lot of percussion. This was also live,
Hmm.
and especially for the Horton series, um, there's a lot of songs in them, and songwriter Rob Cantor wrote those songs and produced those songs, and the whole music team. And it was before I came aboard. They really gravitated to the sound of the song. It was like very percussive, like kind of a jungle, because the whole thing's it plays in the jungle,
Yeah.
um, and they wanted to have the score kind of sound like his songs or like the production. So which was kind of refreshing in a way to use it, not like the usual, standard orchestral like palette that you hear on most, animated shows. So it was more about finding instruments that are playful, like marimbas and like xylophones and everything that's kind of wood, because it's in a forest. And
Yeah.
yeah, so playfulness, like the rhythm, really plays a big role in it. Finding really odd rhythms or strange rhythms because to make it a little quirky. And the emotional depth comes definitely from like kind of slowing things down and keep things fairly simple. And I was really thinking about what Evan's saying about the kids are smart. So what I always try to do in kind of every show I have, um, like I gravitate really towards like complex emotions, but I cannot just like throw that to the kids right away because that's too complex. So I always try to kind of lead them in, start kind of simple, and kind of like lead them into more complex chords and harmonies. And if you would listen to that harmony of that chord like just by itself, it's kind of like weird or dissonant. But I always try to guide them into something. So it's just the emotion becomes more complex by starting off kind of fairly simple. Because yeah, I think it's important, like what Greg said, what Evan said about not underestimating, what kids can feel and understand. That for me is kind of the fun in making composing, kind of finding ways to kind of get there in a way that kids are guided to get more deep.
Yeah. Taking them on that journey.
Yeah,
I love
exactly.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Greg?
But Greg can tell more about his part of the Dr. Seuss score.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Are you all? Yeah, I'd love to. Vijay and I were actually working at the same time on our different Seuss projects, so he and I would message every now and then on Instagram and see if we could help each other out. So that was fun. Um, and Dr. Seuss, his storytelling and his art style, everything about it sort of is just the embodiment of quirk and whimsy to me, right? So there's already this sort of expectation that the score has to bring those elements into its palette, right? And so in a way, it felt like a lot of pressure. How do we do this in a way that serves the story, that feels unique, that isn't distracting? That was a big thing because as composers, we're not always necessarily able to. If there's a lot of dialogue, we can't necessarily use sounds that are particularly calling of attention to themselves, right? Because the main focus still has to be the dialogue, and sometimes a kazoo or something is not the right instrument to be using during a storytelling beat, right? Even though
Right.
it does fit during other moments. And so in my project, we had sort of three pillars or three buckets of sounds that serve different purposes. Like Vijay's, mine was set in a particular environment. Mine was on an island, and so we wanted instruments that sort of conveyed a bit of that setting, but didn't want to necessarily tie it to one culture. So I started mixing instruments from different cultures, West African balafons and kalimbas. A balafon's sort of a West African marimba. Latin American
Thank you.
instruments, obviously. Oh, sure. Um, yeah, so the West African instruments, along with Latin American instruments like the brushed congas I mentioned, cuicas, various flutes from around the world. I work with an amazing flautist, Kristen Negas, who has just hundreds of flutes and is able to sort of give me a lot of different elements. So those elements together gave us that location. Anything I missed, Lorena, that we should mention? I'm sure you pulled on maybe 10, 12 instruments, I think, for this.
I mean, we use so many different types of like shakers and shells, and we used many different types of wood blocks, like
Hmm.
wooden wood blocks, like plastic. Then we had different types of bells, and yeah, and using those brushes not only on the congas, but in like on the bongos and like wooden bongos, and like just trying different textures, playing maybe the same rhythm on a different drum. It just feels different. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, Craig, but I think for the Netflix music team, it was very important that it should not sound like it's from that culture or from that
Right.
location in particular.
Right.
So I was also like you said, like trying to took elements from all kinds of different cultures and kind of mix them together. So you don't have a sense of like, oh, this is African or this is like I don't know Jamaican or like or Asian. Um, uh, yeah, I think that was a very important request for them to make it kind of like not even timeless, but also like locationless. I don't know what the word is.
Yeah, it has to be the Seuss world, right? Not
Yeah.
not a world from that we know here. Um, so that was definitely a challenge in and of itself. And then I needed the quirky palette because we did have a lot of quirky moments in the project, like the appearance of this giant Rube Goldberg machine called the Moonbelly machine, which if you know the story, you'll have a sense of what that looks like. But so five different kinds of kazoos, chipmunk vocals that I sang, vibra slaps, and stuff even more. Yeah, vibra slaps are pretty kind of cliche in the cartoon space, but can work. You know, they work. That's why we use them. And another almost cliche was a harmon muted trumpet that we used for one of the characters, Bean, where we wanted just like a sound that was just inherently comedic, right? And then the third bucket would be the orchestra. And I was really lucky that we were able to record with a live orchestra on this, a 65-piece group out of Budapest. And
Wow.
pretty much a standard orchestral palette, although I replaced most of the woodwinds with saxophones. And that's where we really leaned on for that's the group that we really leaned on for the emotional moments. And a lot of the action too, because there's a lot of big action sequences, but most importantly, the emotional beats where I didn't want to shy away from the complexity of what was happening, and particularly near the end where our lead character is basically like directly faced with this sort of bigotry coming from the other half of the island's inhabitants, and there was a lot of question amongst the music team and I, like how far should we go with this? I mean, like technically they're at a celebration, so should we be scoring the celebratory aspect or should we be scoring this character's inner monologue? I was really pushing hard for, no, let's go for the characters, what they're feeling, not necessarily the surface level of what's happening, but the deeper emotional core of it. And we did it, and I think it's earned, and I think it's gonna feel um it's gonna feel like a moment that I hope it's a moment that kids will take something away from.
I can't wait to hear this. This just sounds incredible, like a whole different
Oh,
world, and a big emotional journey. Really sounds amazing. And talking about an evolution of a sport, Jim, I would like to talk to you about kind of the evolution of your approach to children's television, because you've worked on iconic series like Hey Arnold, and now you're on Primos. It's been, quite a journey. How has the way you've approached things evolved over the years?
It's interesting because I've been digitizing a bunch of the Hey Arnold score to get it off CD. I have 80 CDs of music from that series, and so I've been doing a lot of a lot of deep listening to those cues. And the thing that strikes me really is how little things have changed. I mean, the core job that we do, which we've all been talking about, is marrying people to the story, supporting the characters, carrying the emotion of the story, and so that absolutely has remained the same. The thing that in my world has really changed is the tools. We have such incredible tools at our disposal now to make these sounds. I've been using well, I should say that last couple of years, as I said, I've had a bunch of things going on at the same time, so I've had to work faster than I've ever had to work before. And a lot of things that I would have back in the day recorded with live musicians, I haven't had the time to do music prep and to get people in to record. I've just had to make things, here in my space that I could make. But they're incredibly expressive tools now, sample modeled instruments that are so playable and expressive. That's been a huge change for me. And then on the other hand, obviously, I miss the ability to be in a room with somebody else and to make music together. That aspect of it, the more that goes away, the more I think we all struggle to keep the music alive in the way that we want the music to be alive. And one other thing I wanted to mention too, I've done a lot of educational stuff, a lot of PBS shows. And I'm working on a show right now for what used to be PBS Kids. We're not sure what what that's going to be as time rolls on here, but it's called Weather Hunters, and it's an educational show about weather. Al Roker is the creator of the show, and it's a half-hour format. It's a 22-minute format as opposed to two 11-minute episodes, which a lot of children's television is. And that's been really interesting to score something that's longer form like that, because it's enabled me to write cues that maybe play for a minute and a half, which is, as we all know, that's an eternity in children's television. And it goes directly to the thing that we've all been talking about, which makes me so happy that we all feel this so strongly, that it makes it possible to make music that's maybe a little more challenging or has a little bit more of an arc to it. Because as we've all been saying, nobody has bigger ears than kids do. Nobody. They deserve the richest, most complex music that we can possibly create. So I'm any opportunity I get to do that's really fantastic.
I love it. It's so good to hear that this is the perspective of the people behind what the children are hearing. Just as a mom, not let alone an artist, it's really great to know the intentions that you all have. And so, as a final question, and I'm going to ask this of everybody, your projects are going to be they're going to be shaping the childhood memories of an entire generation. It's just what you're doing and what you're creating. So, what do you hope is the number one takeaway from these stories for for children? Lorena, let's start with you.
I think it might apply to every project we've been working on, but I mean I hope kids and families come away feeling that even though we all have our differences, there's always something universal and like, a message of love and kindness and hope. I hope that these projects bring that to kids and family and connect us all. I think we all need it a lot lately. So it's very I feel very lucky to be working like on projects like this and adding a little bit to this positive message. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Evan, how about you?
I think with this project particularly, I feel just never lose your wonder and never stop questioning things. And you'll reach things in life that may knock you down, or lose things or lose someone, but there's always a way. There's always people there for you. You have family and friends. It's always just to keep pushing and fighting forward for what you believe is right. And I feel like this film, which would it drew me to Dora anyway, but the movie has that in the script, and I really appreciate the way it was executed script to the final product. So I think just keep your wonder and keep questioning and keep pushing forward.
That's fantastic. VJ?
I think like in terms for Horton, like I like the main theme of helping each other, like no matter how different someone is. Uh, and then as a whole, across all the shows, or I just hope that 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 kids learn it, that it's okay to feel things, to have emotions and to really uh, feel whether it's positive or negative. It's good to have to experience those things and go through them and be okay with it.
Yeah, well said. Jim?
Great answer.
Yeah, echoing, I think what a lot of people are saying. Lorena said, I've gotten emails from people who grew up with Hey Arnold, and it seems like it was maybe a surrogate family for them. The people in that show was a kind of a surrogate family when things were maybe they were teenagers or maybe they're having trouble in school or whatever it was. That's that's a responsibility that I don't take lightly. I don't think any of us take lightly. The ability to provide kids with a sense of, as VJ was saying, sometimes things are tough. Sometimes things are wonderful, and to make that large context available to them, and to know that to tell them that there is family and there is there is support out there for them. I think is super important.
Greg, as the projects that you're working on shape the childhood generations moving forward, what is your main takeaway that you'd like for kids to really remember from what you're doing?
Well, I really love what everyone has said so far. That you know, um, really, we're hoping to give. We're all aiming to give kids a sense of hope and a sense of strength that they can overcome adversity. In real life. And I think I've been lucky that both projects I've worked on this year, Sneetches, um, which comes out in a month, actually, November. I'm not sure if this will be airing before or after that, but and then Talon, which is out now. Both of these projects deal with adversity, some pretty dark themes of adversity. Sneetches, again, confronting prejudice; Talon, confronting loss. And kids, they watch these. They watch. I hope that they'll watch these and they'll see these characters experiencing these these real life experiences, and realize that not only did those characters come through that as stronger, better people, leaning on their family, leaning on their friends, but that now these kids can do the same. That they'll be able to get through it. They'll be able to use the tools they learned, hopefully in our art to help improve their own lives. So that's my big hope.
I love that. And I think that brings you back to that point of the universal themes. As much as we wish that adversity wasn't a universal theme, it is. and those tough things that they have to deal with. If we equip them with tools and support systems, and we represent that so that they understand it, we model it in our art, that can be really impactful. So I agree with you wholeheartedly. It looks like that's it. That's all the time we have. I had the best time with you all. Thank you so much to our panelists, Evan, BJ, Jim, Greg, and Lorena. Thank you for being here with us today and discussing your incredible work that really will impact generations to come. Also, thank you so much to Impact 24 PR for putting this together, connecting all of us, and to all of you for watching. We'll see you next time.